Hello everyone, welcome back to the British Boxing Blog podcast. Just a quick one today ahead of the big fight tonight in the States. So Canelo-Alvarez against Callum-Smith, a huge fight at 168. We've got a lot of people talking again this week. I think, the closer it gets and there's a British fighter involved, people start maybe leaning towards Smith. It's such an intriguing fight, Andrew. Canelo's first fight at 168. How do you see it? How do you see it playing out?
I don't know. In short, I haven't got a fucking clue. It's a fight where I've tossed and turned and gone back and forth. Normally, I do that and then I sort of settle on an answer or settle on a particular fighter. With Simbox predictions, we both did one for his little video he's put together. Worth checking that one out. I went with Canelo. I think I said Canelo possibly late stoppage. I think that's the sort of head rule in the heart option, in that I'm not massively invested in Callum-Smith win. No, I'd like to see him do it, but I think when it was made, you just look at Canelo, you think he's the best in the world. He's got a lot of skill, he's got a lot of attributes, he's shown he can mix it up with different styles, and the question marks are mainly around Smith, but the closer it's got, I'm almost buying into the size difference and the reach and the physical advantages that Callum-Smith's got. Like, will Canelo be able to negate them and nullify what Smith brings? And that was sort of the opposite of where I came from with my previous prediction. But I'm not staking anything on it. I'm not tipping it. I'm not betting anything on it. I just want to sit and enjoy it and not feel that pressure, because it's one of those fights where if you look at the four main outcomes plus a draw, it could be any of those five. Either fighter could win by knockout. Either fighter could win on points, although a couple of those are less likely than the others. And it's fascinating, really. And it's been a while since I've said that, like with Canelo in a fight. And it's definitely the first time in the Callum-Smith fight that you've he's gone in as the heavy underdog.
I know it is. It is fascinating, like you say. I think there's a lot of different things to consider. You mentioned question marks, and I think they've both got question marks over them. Like, I think Callum-Smith's got a massive John Ryder-shaped question mark hovering over his head. Do you know what I mean? He didn't like John Ryder fighting on the inside against him last year. So if you don't like John Ryder fighting on the inside, will you like Canelo coming, trying to hit you to the body? I guess you could flip it both ways. That, you mentioned them advantages Callum-Smith's got. Does Canelo see that it's just a bigger area to hit with those body punches and sort of maybe looping overhand rights with Callum-Smith's big sort of neck? Do you know what I mean? I guess Canelo's fought bigger guys before. He has, obviously. It's something that he's going to have to do with his sort of stature and stuff, like his physical size and that. He's obviously going to face bigger guys a lot, especially at these weights. But I just think he's a funny one, Canelo, isn't he? Because he's never sort of really settled on a weight for a while. Like, he's a bit of an all-rounder, isn't he? He can just, I think I'll go super middleweight this time. Oh, I think I'll face Kovalev. Oh, a bit of middleweight. Do you know what I mean? Like, he sort of just does what he pleases, and he's that massive star. And I think, his first bona fide sort of test out of this new weight of 168 that he sort of decided to dip his toes into the water at. And he's facing a proper top quality 168. You can debate all you want about who's better, Smith, Plant, Benavidez, whatever. But, there's no doubt Callum-Smith's a top fighter. And I think if Callum's maybe coming into it straight from the Groves fight with that momentum, as I say, maybe for some people that little or big John Ryder-shaped question mark still looming over Callum-Smith. Yeah,
I think with Canelo, you've mentioned he sort of hopped through the weights. He started off as a welterweight, had most of his mainstream success at super welter or junior middle, whatever you want to call it, and then obviously at middleweight with the Golovkin fights that you can again debate. And there's a lot of the names on Canelo's record you can potentially put a little asterisk next to, and sort of people will look back at the Lara fight where he was sort of fighting a boxer and someone who moved caused him problems, and then he's gone up, beat Rocky Fielding at 168 for a fringe title, classing that as a belt, and then gone on at light heavy, beat Kovalev, and he's officially a 4-weight world champion. I'll say 3 until tomorrow morning, see what happens. So the fact that he's fighting Smith, who is a legit 168-pound champion, he's someone that can pose him problems. And I think if I'm to break down how I see the fight going, Smith has got to get his jab going and try and maintain that distance. And sometimes that gets confused with boxing on the back foot, trying to nick the rounds type of style. But I don't see Smith willingly giving up that center of the ring. Like if he chooses to box on the back foot and box and move and try and keep Canelo at distance that way, that's going to give a bit more impetus and a bit more encouragement to Canelo to come forward and slip the jabs, particularly any to the head. He's got fantastic head movement, good footwork. He can control the space. And I think he'll end up backing Smith up. And like you said, it's a long body for him to target. He showed against, admittedly, a lesser opponent in Fielding that he can get inside, he can hit to the body, he can stop the bigger man that way. And again, he stopped Kovalev with a lovely shot upstairs. But there's a lot of focus on, I think, the body work of Canelo, what he does, and how Smith holds up to that over the 12 rounds. If Smith comes out, gets him on the end of the jab, keeps that distance, but from the middle of the ring, and has Canelo on the outside, then you look at it and you think, well, how does the smaller man get inside? How does he close that distance and get to work? Like, Canelo's not going to win this from the outside, whereas Smith potentially could. But given his height and his reach, he's not necessarily the type of boxer to box and move and to keep that distance like you'd maybe want him to in this fight, or you'd maybe anticipate him doing with like the size and his physicality and the way he's built. His best results have come when he's got on the inside and let his hands go and got those stoppages. Like, see, both for Fielding, like Smith's win over Fielding was amazing. Like, in terms of the performance, was absolutely stunning. And the Grove fight was pretty cagey. Groves has got a good jab himself, and it was only when Smith landed and got on the inside and hurt him that you thought, right, like obviously that was it, and he finished the fight. Do you see Smith being able to do that to Canelo? Like, even if he lands, is he going to knock him out? Is he going to stop him? Is he going to hurt him, get him in trouble?
I think he might have to. I do not think that nicking rounds in close rounds, I don't think he'll get them. Not in Texas and not against Canelo. I just don't think, like, if he needs to, like you said, if he's going to do it by points, he's going to have to win them, like, convincingly. I think anything close, he'll not get. So then that leaves you with what? Does he have to stop him? Quite possibly, aye. Or get some 10-8 rounds in there and, you know, take away any avoidance of doubt. You know, without getting sort of political, it's Canelo, it's in Texas. I'm sure there's going to be fans there because there was for Errol Spence, who was in Texas. Again, that's something else to throw in the mix. Bit of an atmosphere for, you know, judges who, again, I think will shade anything remotely close to Canelo away from home. I just think that's the case. So then it leaves you with what? Callum Smith by stoppage. If Callum Smith stops Canelo tonight, then that is massive. That's like shakes the boxing world massive. Do you know what I mean? Like, Canelo's pound for pound king, massive star, like basically dances to the beat of his own tune, calls his own shots, like huge name now in boxing, you know, probably the biggest. If Callum Smith can stop him, that would be incredible. You know, there's no bigger fan of Callum Smith than me, really. Like, I love Callum Smith. I think he's class. I just cannot. It's just a big ask. Like, it's such a big ask. You know, you mentioned just again there before about that in sort of inside fighting of Canelo and what he likes, and you work in the body, then going upstairs like you did against Kovalev, and just, you know, and I will keep referring to it again, that night Callum Smith had about a year ago against John Ryder, where he arguably got beat. A lot of people say he didn't like John Ryder sort of ruffling him up on the inside, and sort of not the best, doesn't really flow this example, but I watched John Ryder last night pretty much go through the, you know, labour through for 10 rounds against Mike Guy, and you think, God, if that's, and no offence, I like John Ryder, but if he can cause Smith problems on the inside, then Canelo in Texas, I don't know, man. I can't not see Canelo getting to him at some point. Hope I'm wrong. I would absolutely love Callum Smith doing it. Not from like the whole, he's British, just from like, I like him. I like the cut of his jib. I like the way he handles himself. I think he seems absolutely sound. And for the upset story and the, you know, the shock, it would maybe not shock the people close to him, but, you know, see Canelo beat would be away from home in the States would be, well, Texas would be incredible. I know he's Mexican, but whatever. I just don't think he can just nick rounds, close rounds. I think that might be the game plan. That makes sense. You know what I mean? That what you said, the back foot, the jab, really sticking it out, stopping Canelo in his tracks. It might be what makes sense in your head, but is it going to be enough for him where it's at? I'm not sure.
I think with the Ryder comparison, I've seen that a lot this week and over the last few weeks, to be honest. I think Ryder beat Smith personally. It was a close fight, it was a competitive fight. I see why it went either way, you know what I mean? Like, there's people on both sides of it, but I don't think Canelo, although he's going to come forward and put it on Smith, and like there are light years not just between between Canelo and Ryder technically.
Yeah.
I think Canelo will be a bit more composed. He won't be as rugged and as crude and try and sort of wrestle and maul Smith back in the clinch and sort of physically pushing him back to the ropes and just relentlessly putting that pressure on. He's going to look to pick more clean openings, and if he finds them, that's going to be a lot worse for Smith. And we'll talk about the body you mentioned as well. Like, Smith's sort of upright style could lend itself to the big overhand shots. That when I first made my prediction, I thought it was going to be a lot of work to the body, and then it's going to be a big overhand shot later on where Smith's tired, he's exhausted from taking punishment to the body. It's going to be upstairs, there'll be a big shot, potentially right hand or a left hook, something really heavy that connects clean and like ends the fight that way. But I don't think Canelo's going to come out and set a really frenetic pace for 12 rounds and try and wrestle and shove Smith back physically like that. It's going to be a bit more patient, a bit more calculated, which, if he doesn't then land those big shots, that could give Smith a bit of time and a bit more time to do his own work. The questions I have around him aren't specifically with the John Ryder fight, which didn't have his own way. But other than that, we've never really seen Smith troubled. We've never seen him hurt. We've never seen him down or like be in danger of getting stopped and pulled through. And obviously that's like testament to his own ability that he's never been in that situation. But until you see a fighter in that situation, you don't know how they're going to respond. And I'm not questioning his mentality. I mean, like, physically, like, can he take a flush shot on the chin? If you look at Canelo and Golovkin, there's a lot of talk about those fights beforehand and what they're going to bring out of each other. But there's some flush shots that Canelo's took.
Yeah.
And although we're talking the lower weight class, does Smith hit massively harder than Golovkin? Like, possibly not. You know what I mean? There's probably not a lot between those two. So I don't see Smith, and I'd love to be wrong here, I don't see him catching Canelo with that one shot and turning his lights out and hurting, like, and knocking him out essentially. Which then you think, right, well, if Smith isn't going to stop him, isn't going to knock him out clean, what we've just said, like, then how does he win on points, and does he have to come out and dominate each round? And I'm not going to get too much into scorecards and potential judging controversy because we have it in the UK just as bad as
absolutely
any Canelo decision I've seen. Like, yeah, there's been some shockers regarding him, and you look through his record, and as I say, you can pick holes in some of the performances and some of his wins, and you think he was a bit fortunate there, or he was lucky to get the draw on the Mayweather card in the loss. And you can do that with anyone, though. You can do that with anyone's record. I think even if Canelo had a couple of losses on his record, the company he's mixed in and the level he's performed at consistently over several weight divisions, it means the respect's warranted. It's deserved for him. I'm interested to see how he gets on at super middleweight, if that's where he's going to sort of settle and campaign, because height-wise, not just against Callum Smith, but he's not a massively tall super middleweight. Like, for 12 stone, he's very short and stocky. Even at middleweight and like super welter, he didn't look like a tall, sort of lanky fighter. So for him to fill out that already stocky frame, adding on a few pounds, it's interesting to see if he, like, at the top level, like, as you say, it could have been a Caleb Plant, it could have been a Benavidez, it's Smith. Like, they're all interchangeable for me as just as good as each other. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does at the top level at super middleweight.
No, it is. You mentioned something there that I was about. Canelo's probably not going to come out like a red rag to a bull and really put it on. That's not what he does. Like, he takes rounds off Canelo. He doesn't really sort of panic when he goes behind, even against Kovalev. You could see he was losing that fight until he stopped him. But he does sort of coast a bit, and he's very patient. He waits for his openings and stuff. Again, that is something like the Smith camp have sort of hinted on this week, that they know he does that, and that's something they're going to look to exploit. And I guess they will. But like I keep coming back to, is it just going to be enough trying to like nick rounds? Is Gallagher going to set him up similar to how he did Scott Quigg that time? Is he going to is he against Frampton? Is he going to wait? Is he going to sort of just sit and not really do much at all and try and get to Canelo later on? I've got no idea about the Smith tactics are going to be a massive, fascinating part of the fight tonight. I think how Gallagher sets it up, the game plan. What is it? Do they ease themselves into it slowly, which Gallagher does like to do sometimes, which doesn't always work. It didn't work with Jose Burton over in Latvia. It didn't work with Quigg against Frampton, for two examples. Or do they have to go out and try and really think, I'm the super middleweight here, I'm the world champion, I'm the king sort of thing, and we're going to really see him take it to Canelo from the off and try and give him a bit of taste of his own medicine. And it's fascinating from a Gallagher and Callum Smith point of view of how they approach it tonight, because I think Canelo probably won't change. Canelo will just do what he does. He'll pretty much methodical, like you said. It's obvious where I think he'll target probably later in the fight. I don't see it going early. I don't see it going early from either man. I don't think Canelo blasts Smith out of there. And like you said, I'm not convinced Smith blasts Canelo out of there. So what you're saying there is, again, I don't see it going early. I don't see Smith blasting Canelo out of there early. When I say early, I mean even first 6. I do think it'll go past that. I don't see Canelo massively blasting Smith out of there either, which then leads us on to the second half of the fight, sort of 7-12, and just that's the way I logically sort of think about it in my head. That's the way I can picture the fight going in my mind, and that is Canelo, either winning it on points or taking Smith out. Maybe he's 9, 10, 11, 12 later in the fight, where Smith tires and Canelo has got more of a target to hit and can get to him late. That's the more logical side of me. That's what I think. I think 7-12 makes a lot more sense than 1-6.
I actually agree. I think very similarly in terms of the outcome. But what I do think is important to note is how the first 6 play out will have an impact on what happens in the second half of the fight. And that sounds obvious to say, same in any fight, really. But like you saying there, if Canelo is taking rounds off, or he's happy to not be as active, not be as productive, then likes of Smith, what he'll do, he'll have to get his jab going. And if Canelo is taking some rounds off and being a little easier and not being as pushing the action, not being as busy with his hands, and then they're the rounds that Smith's going to have to win, and that could be the chance to not necessarily hurt Canelo, but jab and move and box, and without hurting him or rocking him or wobbling him, just put him in that position where that's a clear Smith round. Smith won that round. It's not that, nothing's really happened from either fighter there and it potentially goes to Canelo. They could be the ones that Smith banks, and if he's ahead at the halfway point, then Canelo, like you said about Kovalev, like we said about Amir Khan in the past, he's behind on the cards and he's got that shot in his locker to change the course of the fight and to change the outcome. If he's looking for that, or if he's desperate for that against Smith, maybe it doesn't come. Maybe Smith has the confidence and is able to last those later rounds and turn things in his favour. But if I was to have a gun to my head and pick, it would be, as you've said, essentially Canelo in the second half of the fight. I think in the Simbox one, I've eventually settled on round 11 or 12. I think really late on, as you said, I think Smith's going to have to put a lot into it to be competitive and to possibly even be up on the scorecards at the time of the stoppage. I think at some point Canelo will get through to the body, whether he stops him to the body or that creates an opening upstairs. And I think that'll be, as I say, Canelo late stoppage would be the one I'd go for.
It's fascinating from we said we weren't going to massively bet on it or tip on it, but from a sort of betting point of view, that the last few weeks, you know, you've seen these big winners at the bookies, these big underdogs, not in maybe people's eyes, but in betting odds. You know, you've seen Joe Joyce, Lyndon Arthur last night, Craig Richards opened at 4-1 to beat Pitters. Like, wouldn't surprise you the way 2020's gone these last few weeks if Smith did it. You know, there's definitely money gone on Smith. You know, it wouldn't surprise us from a betting angle if he did win it, the way it's going. But like you say, I think I would also go for the sort of Canelo late rounds, and that's why I like that Sky Bet double chance of 2-1 on Canelo, 7-12 and or points. So that's where I'll stick at this point. But no, let's all enjoy the fight. DAZN been working a treat this week, so I'm looking forward to actually getting up for it for a change and watching it on there. So yeah, hope everyone enjoys. Cheers again for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Bye bye.